coming up on 10. Normally have a bigger crowd, but let's see. I never know week to week whether how many people to expect, so just kind of play it by ear. Jonathan, I'm hoping to have a good crowd for you here today, but who knows? So all I can do is advertise it. I put it out again last night on Facebook, and people were sharing the event, so hopefully we'll get a good turnout. But this shadow over here is really irritating me. You can see this brown shadow kind of comes and goes. That's my floor. I've never had that come up before, so I don't know what's going on. So, let's see what else is going on. Normally I got more people, so I can ask everybody to say something. That kind of kills time, but I'm trying to save my voice, so I'm trying not to talk as much. But Keith, what's going on with you? Anything interesting in Richmond we should know about?
No, not right now.
Okay. Right. Always love to have guests who can fill space. That's good. Y'all remember Benny Hill, right?
Yeah.
Benny Hill show. He interviewed the guy, the tall, skinny guy, one of his regulars on the show, and he says he's interviewing. He says, "You have a reputation as a bit of a hell raiser," and he sits there and, yes, and then I asked him a question. And he sits there, no, and that's all he can get out of it. Yes or no. That was funny. I always love Benny Hill. Hey, there's my dog. You see most of him. There he is. That's General Grievous.
Yeah, mine's laying behind me right there.
Yep. Sometimes the pig will make an appearance. I've got the dog's bed is right here, and then the pig's bed is over here. So they'll come in here, and when I'm working, they'll both tend to lay in here, especially when it's raining. They'll come in, but they'll both lay here and spend the whole day on the beds and keep me company. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, my new little puppy, I had to take it out this morning on the leash in the snow, and it's the first time it's had any snow, and it was diving that head in that snow and pushing through and popping its head up and jumping around like a rabbit.
Oh yeah, I love it. It's funny because I'll make snowballs, and then my dog will chase them, and they can't figure out what happened to the snow. It's like, he threw the ball right here. Where'd it go? So big. We had a decent amount of snow here. I don't know, 8-10 years ago, but we got at least like a foot and a half, and we had like drifts of like 2 feet outside. So I had to dig a channel through the snow over to the grass for the animals to go, because they'd want to just step right outside and pee and poop, because they didn't want to go to the grass because of the snow. So I had like this channel in the snow, so they're like these walls that are like walking through. The pig would stop because it's just the right height. You just turn his head and start chewing at the snow in the wall. It's the funniest thing.
2 years down here in April the 15th, we had 36 inches of snow.
Really?
In April.
No, thank you. I like a little snow just to remind me it's winter, but that's it.
Yeah, it's free if anybody wants it. Just come and get it. They can shovel
Get
it up.
all you want.
Yeah.
All you want.
Cause I get it when
gas prices are too much to go up there and get snow.
That's right.
I get it all the time. When people down the road from me, they might get an inch or two. I get 7 or 8, 10 inches up here.
Oh, man. Are you more elevated? Are you more up in the mountains? Or?
Yeah, I'm on top of the mountain.
Oh, okay. Well, that's probably why.
Yeah.
I always need to be prepared, and I never am. Although everybody here is pretty much a regular. All right, it's after 10 o'clock. I would like to welcome everyone to Virginia Research Lodge's unstated meeting. Kind of a small crowd today, but for those of you watching online, this will be on YouTube at some point. Morning, Robert. I assume that's our dear senior warden joining us. There he is. All right. Well, we have a quorum. We have a majority of members. So I don't know what I did. I guess I'm living right because I managed to get my wardens and master and secretary to show up. So I'm doing pretty good here. We have in the chat our links. Those of you who might not know, and I think everybody here already knows, but just to cover it, we have our Facebook group, the Lodge website, our YouTube channel, and my email. If you're interested in the research papers, but it looks like everybody here is already part of the inner circle, so I'm just preaching to the choir. But this will be on YouTube, although that isn't. But so if you're on YouTube, then come find me on Facebook and visit our group. Today we have Brother Jonathan Oliveras, who will be giving us a talk on COVID-19 and its effect on the craft. Before we get to that, I am going, well, let's see. I was going to ask a question from the group. By the way, these online meetings do appear on YouTube. I've been kind of slack, I guess, the last 2 weeks because I have not got our last meeting up there yet, but it will be going up there soon. So since we have a small group, I will ask a tougher question. I did say that in the last one we had a good talk about food served in lodge, and I'm going to separate that out as like a 15-20 minute video and post it by itself. So I'm going to start doing this before each meeting, have a separate question and answer that I'm going to cut out and post by itself to try and, by putting out shorter videos, see if maybe I can draw more people watching on YouTube, because I don't know if anybody's going to watch a 2-hour video. Some people do. So we're trying different things there. So let me ask a tougher question. One second. Okay. This is good. I have shorter questions to ask a group that are kind of like yes or no, because they can kind of go long, but we have a little bit larger groups, a small group. So I'm going to ask a question to be more involved here. Okay. And Bernie's joining us. I'll let him join, and then I will ask the question. Good morning, Brother Duggan. Good to have you with us, sir. You're on mute. You want to say hello?
Hello.
There you are. There.
Yeah.
You're kind of in the corner. There you are. All right. It's like had part of your head in there. Okay, I'm gonna ask. Well, this is good. I'm gonna ask this question of each of you. Okay, so one of the new things we're starting is we're going to ask a question before we get to the speaker and just kind of get some feedback from everybody present. So I'm going to start with Brother Paul Griffith. And I'm going to ask every one of you this question, so think on it for a minute or two. And if you're not in the States, if you can offer your opinion anyway. I think John may be the only foreigner we got here. But would you be, Brother Paul, start with you. Would you be in favor of your Grand Lodge, your state Grand Lodge, merging with your Prince Hall Grand Lodge, and why or why not?
Well, Louisiana doesn't recognize Prince Hall yet.
Okay. Well, assuming they did.
Oh, they don't. In fact, I think one of the resolutions is to recognize Prince Hall, just simply recognize them
Right.
At the Grand Communication we have coming up. But we've got this other kink because we're Louisiana. We have a ancient and accepted Scottish rite.
Yes.
That's not Prince Hall. In fact,
Right.
they were established before the Prince Hall first established in Louisiana.
I'm familiar
So we
with
got
that.
we got more than one group to recognize.
Just take Prince Hall. Is the Supreme Council primarily black members?
Yes.
Okay.
Looking at their webpage.
Okay. Well, let's just assume for the sake of argument you're like the rest of us and you already recognize it. Would you be in favor of actually merging the two? Set aside the Supreme Council. They're kind of outside the framework here.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about it, but I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Okay. Brother Hughes, and now you're in England. Now you're familiar, I'm sure, with Prince Hall and all like that, so it's kind of hard, but just imagine you had a body alongside the Grand Lodge England.
I just wouldn't have any opinion about it at all.
Okay. All right. Rooster, what's your take? Should the Grand Lodge of Virginia recognize the most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Virginia? That's their full name. I mean, merge with, like, literally merge, pull them all together, combine the Grand Lodge officers and all like that. Be one Grand Lodge.
Well, I have no problem. Mason's a Mason. It, we're all human beings. To me, you live together, you don't.
Right. Okay.
I have no problem.
Okay. And again, I'm not talking about recognition, which you already have. I'm talking about literally combining the two, merging them into a single thing. Brother Oliveras, what do you think? And what Grand Lodge are you a member of?
Virginia now.
Oh, you're Virginia. Okay, that's right. That's right. You're okay.
It was Florida up to
Okay.
a few weeks ago, and I recently joined Warwick. It's funny you ask this question. I'm currently in school, and we're working on a project where we're doing a merger, and it's logistically, it's easier said than done when you put together two entities.
Right.
I would not be opposed to it. However, there will be a lot of challenges because you can't have two grandmasters. You can't have two so someone will have to step down. But
Exactly.
if we can figure it out, I would not be opposed to it.
Okay. Brother Robert, what's your take?
Well, I asked that question a few years ago when I went to Grand Lodge, and the response was, well, we can't do it because both sides doesn't want to give up their whoever their grand line is and whatnot, and grand rights. I mean, I personally would not be opposed to it. I still say, why can't we? If we're considered brotherly love, then what's the most important thing what's one of the biggest things we could do?
Right.
And that would be it. Now, yes, as everyone's brought up so far, some people brought up, there's going to be some issues, and it's not going to be something that you just say, hey, we're going to do it. You're going to really have to do it because you've got people who have got to give up, for lack of a better word, their fiefdoms, so to speak. They're going to have to, somebody's going to have to be gracious enough to say, hey, I see the greater good of this, and I'm willing to do this or whatever.
Right.
It's definitely a complicated issue, but I would be for it.
Brother Duggan.
I would not be opposed to it, but like it's already been said, it would be a lot of challenges. And since we recognized Prince Hall, I know that in my area, I don't know even of a single visit that we've had from any of the Prince Hall Masons. Right. I know that some of us have visited. I never have, but there have been some of us who have visited Prince Hall lodges, but they have not reciprocated. I don't know. I think if it's going to happen, I think it's going to be a long ways down the road.
Thank you. Brother Keith?
I'm sorry, I lost my internet or something for a few
All right.
seconds.
Good to have you back. So the question is, would you be in favor of our Grand Lodge merging with our Prince Hall Grand Lodge? Why or why not? And not necessarily the idea. I'm sure no one would be opposed, but what would be the pros and cons, I guess, is what I'm looking for. What would be a reason to do it or not do it?
I just think it's morally the right thing to do, but
Okay.
whether it can happen or not, I don't know.
Okay.
You know, both of them are individual. I guess each Grand Lodge would have their own issues. And I often wonder, I think of the old Negro baseball, you know, when they started allowing blacks to come into major leagues, that killed Negro baseball.
This is true. And a lot of players.
And I wonder if that might happen similar with some of the Prince Hall lodges.
Right. A lot of good ball players who were, you know, first string or whatever you call them in the Negro leagues couldn't get positions in major league, and that's it. They kind of, you know, yeah, their careers were over. It's true. They couldn't play anymore because their leagues fell apart. That's a valid point. Because you'd rather play in the Major League Baseball.
I just wonder that. I'm not sure I'm correct in my feelings. So.
Okay. No, that's good. I think we're all kind of on the same page. I was looking for more contrary opinions, but we all seem to be agreeing. But Brother Alan Clark, good to have you join us, sir. In your rig. I'm just asking the question to everyone. Would you be in favor of your Grand Lodge merging, not just recognizing, but merging with your Prince Hall Grand Lodge? You probably can't hear us. Can you hear me, Brother Clark?
Yes, you're on the headset instead of the speaker.
Right.
So
I'll restate the question, but we've kind of gotten the same answer from everyone, but I feel to be fair to ask everyone. Would you be in favor of your Grand Lodge merging with Prince Hall Grand Lodge?
I don't oppose it, but we know it'll never happen. And I'm Virginia, just like you.
Oh, okay. I keep assuming everybody's from somewhere else, but lately we've been getting all Virginia brothers. Brother London, same question. Hey.
I have a suspicion that we'd be getting a fair bit of opposition from the other direction.
That's
Prince
probably
Hall's
true.
not wanting to merge.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you cut out there. I heard you a little bit. You said we get opposition from the other direction. They want to be in favor of it.
Just a suspicion.
Yep. Well, very good. Well, I mean, I try to ask these questions to get kind of different viewpoints and just kind of get more perspective, but honestly, I think we're all on the same page. I think I'm more, as Keith said, I'm morally in favor of it. I wish we'd never had the split, but it predates us by, 200 years. So it's not like any of us had anything to do with what happened originally. But I can see, because every Prince Hall brother I've talked to is very proud of the history of their Grand Lodge, what they've accomplished, what their lodges have and all that. And yeah, on the one hand, you lose some of that identity. I mean, even though your lodge would continue in the new one and you'd have more lodges in a given area that you could visit, we'd have to restructure all the districts and all that. But yeah, the main point is, how do you shuffle all of those grand officers fairly? You'd have to like flip a coin and say, okay, the current, Virginia Grand Master or the Deputy Grand Master is going to be Grand Master next year. And the current deputy from Prince Hall Grand Lodge is going to be the Grand Senior Warden. And you kind of interlock them, but then you get about 6 guys at the end that are out of luck. And then realistically, if we're about, I think, 2 or 3 times their size and membership, is there a chance another former Prince Hall brother is going to get elected to Grand Lodge? Now, you would more than likely have, if the incoming Grand Master is from Prince Hall, he's going to put in somebody from Prince Hall, and maybe for years you're going to have a back and forth to keep it going. But I don't know. It would be a logistical nightmare. And I did hear one person once say, it's like, no, we don't want to merge with you because we've got more money and we don't want to just get lost. Basically, we've managed to save more money than you, and we're just going to share that with you. So, okay, that was an interesting question. I appreciate everybody. I really was hoping for more variety and opinions, but you all seem to pretty much agree it's doable. It's probably a good thing, but logistically, it would probably never happen. It'd be too much to work out. But I don't know. I think eventually we're going to get there, but it may take another 50 years. And honestly, as Brother Duncan mentioned, I've only seen, I think, a handful of times where one of our lodges visited theirs and vice versa. It was Virginia Research in 2010, when it Keith, thereabouts.
I was going to say it was probably a little longer than that. It was when Doug Boynton, I believe, was master. And I'd have to look that up. Around 2004, somewhere.
That sounds about right. Okay. And I remember driving up for that, and that was great. We had, I think, the current Prince Hall Grand Secretary and one or two past Grand Masters and about 20 members. So they gave a presentation. So there's about 20 of them and about 20 some of us. They all sat together in one group, and they gave a talk and talked about the history of Prince Hall. And the best part for me was at the end, they just had a question and answer session where we just asked questions of, what, anything you want to ask while we're here. And one of them stood up and said, yeah, I got to say, what is wrong with you all? I mean, you're in a sport coat. You've got this loud tie. You've got this over here. You got all these buttons on your lapel. What is with you people? And every one of them is in a black suit, white shirt, black tie. And that's their uniform. That's what they wear to lodge, period. You don't show up in a polo shirt to their lodge. You don't even show up in a sport coat. You will wear a black suit, period. And we're like colorful as can be. You think about any lodge you go to, everybody's just, we wear whatever we're wearing. Most of us are in coat and tie, but we're all sorts of colorful. And the Prince Hall brothers are like, no, that's not, that's not how you do it. It was such an eye opener to me because I never even thought of that, but it was so true. It's like,
well, part of that has to do with they started as a military lodge. So they had the uniformity of what would be the British way of doing things.
Yep. And maybe that continued. I think it has to do with discipline and has to do with respect for the organization you're in. And that's something worthy of another discussion is how we should dress in lodge. Because I get a lot of pushback online from people. It's like, why should I have to dress up for Masonry? It's demanding too much of me to have to dress up for lodge. You're supposed to judge the internal and not the external. It's like, really? So asking you to dress up for your lodge is too much of an effort, but that's a whole nother discussion. I appreciate everybody contributing here. It's 10:20. I guess we've got 10 people. We're not probably going to get any more here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Brother Jonathan Oliveras, who will introduce himself and go ahead and give his talk on how COVID is affecting the craft.
All right, thank you. I am going to share my screen, if that's okay with you all. All right, first and foremost, I want to thank you, Worshipful Douglas, for what you have created here. This is an amazing program, having people gather from all over the state and the world to have an open discussion about things of this matter and to share ideas. I think it's great, and it will kind of fall in line to some of the stuff that you'll see in my presentation. So I'll start with introducing myself and speaking about myself briefly. I became a Mason at William B. Barnett, 187 Free and Accepted Masons in Jacksonville, Florida, under the Grand Lodge of Florida. I was raised in December 2010, so pretty soon coming up on 12 years. I've traveled to different lodges in all over the world, sat in a lot of them, and got to meet a lot of really nice and wonderful brothers. I moved to Hampton Roads in 2014. And for some of you who are not familiar with Hampton Roads, it's made up of these 7 cities here in the Southern Virginia part, which is Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Norfolk, Suffolk, Portsmouth, Newport News, and Hampton. So, and I recently, after a while being what I like to call myself was a free agent, recently joined Yorktown Lodge 336 from here in the Grand Lodge of Virginia, and I'm very happy and honored to be a part of that. got married in 2004 with my high school sweetheart, my wonderful wife Jasmine. I have two daughters, one of which is a rainbow girl. Very proud of her. I was in the Navy for 10 years. I did 2 combat deployments, 2 Asian patrols. I'm currently working with the Air Force as a civilian, and I'm completing my master's degree in business administration, and hopefully soon, maybe, I don't know, end up being a PhD candidate. So we'll see where the future takes us. So today I'm going to be covering a few things. Mainly is the impact of COVID on the craft. Now, there wasn't a lot of concrete research that I can find. I found a few things, but I had to get a little creative. And fortunately, and I hate to say this, but I didn't have enough time to reach out to all the Grand Lodges to get data. So I focused on COVID, but also the impacts prior to COVID-19, how our lodges have been impacted. And I have a philosophy that anytime I provide a problem, I like to also provide a solution. So I have ideas that I've come up with, and some are based on research of ways that we can help Masonry bounce back. So, impact of COVID-19 on the craft. Most of this we all know because we lived through it and dealt with it. Many of you were perhaps worshipful masters or in the Grand Lodge and understood some of these. The impact of the crisis on the individual Masons depend on their country and jurisdiction. Not everyone was affected the same way. Everyone was certainly affected, but some places worse than others. For instance, New York had high COVID cases, and most of them were deadly. COVID-19 also caused a lot of Masonic activities and daily routines to come to a complete halt. It stopped new potential members. It created a bigger gap for active members because we had to stay apart from each other. And we also have inactive members that it kind of pushed them away a little bit because since we had to shut down and we had to social distance, we had to limit our events and functions and dinners and breakfasts and fundraisers, we just couldn't come together. And so we had a situation where inactive members became more inactive, if that makes any sense. Some lodges had to shut down. They went dark due to state and federal laws or recommendations based on CDC recommendations. And then when some lodges opened back up, in some cases it was limited. You can only have but so many people. And that also created a challenge. Now, some of this information you're going to see here may pertain to students. However, being that it's based on fraternal organizations, we can kind of correlate some of this. And you can see in a study that was conducted in 2020, it said that new members that joined in the fall of 2020, they wanted to join because they were craving a connection. So we have people who are joining fraternities and organizations because they want a connection. But they also found that 61% of new members who joined during 2020 said that they knew, and this says student, so I was quoting this, but as we related to us and in the craft, we can call them candidates who chose to wait because of COVID-19, right? They were affected. They either couldn't because Grand Lodge said we couldn't do any degree work. They couldn't because they lost their jobs and they didn't have the financial means, or they were just fearful of contracting COVID and just didn't want to be around anyone, so chose to self-isolate themselves. We also lost a lot of members and families due to COVID. They passed away. They unfortunately, it was, and at the beginning, this was a very scary thing. People were not surviving this, how they weren't as resilient as they are now when they contracted COVID. So we also lost a lot of members, unfortunately, and family members, which are also our families, you know. Impact on the current members. Disconnection from brothers due to social distancing. I know for me personally, I love when I walk into the lodge and I see someone I haven't seen in a few weeks or a few days, and we smile, we exchange a handshake or you know, a hello, and we weren't getting that. It also put a lot of stress on members and the lodge officers. Some lodge officers saw themselves serving 2 terms as worshipful masters. Others saw their progression along the line come to a halt because, and this is, I'm not sure in all Grand Lodges if it was like this, but I know in Virginia there were some instances where you had past masters that were 2 terms back to back, 2020 and 2021. Social distance and isolation made normal business rituals and gatherings impossible. We couldn't come together for stated sessions. We couldn't do our floor work, and we couldn't just come together. Here it is a picture of the Masons from the Grand Lodge of Philippines, and this is in 50 years, like Worshipful Douglas said, this is going to be odd. You know, these people are all standing far apart. They're all wearing masks, and it's kind of hard to feel brotherly love when you're standing this far apart, and you might have to shout to someone if you're trying to get something across. And some lodges lost members, or members didn't return. So this isolation, and we already spoke about the inactive members that weren't so active. We lost members because this just further pushed them away. And this is a big contributing factor. Now, those are problems that were due to COVID. So what about prior to COVID? Well, there's over 101,000 fraternal organizations in the US, and they experience a decline in the past 60 years. Their perceived relevance in the society is questioned. People are wondering why should they even join these. Most of my research came from a PhD candidate who conducted research using California Masons, and he did 20 interviews, non-members, former members, current members, and so this is the result of some of his findings. It showed that participation is influenced by several factors that are internal to Masons, such as common objectives. The organization's focus on making a difference in the community and the extent to how the values match up. Now, I want you all to keep this in mind because this will come back down the line, and you're going to see how I tie this together, or at least attempt to tie it together. Some of external factors that kind of impacted us was the family, job commitments, and interactions with internal factors that affected the willingness of Masons to continue on. Currently, there are approximately almost 101,000 fraternal organizations in the United States. This is according to the IRS as of 2016. And I mentioned that in a previous slide, and I mention it again because as a business graduate student, I'd look at this from a perspective of we have a lot of competition as Masons to say, hey, you should be a Mason, and I know we can't really approach someone and say, hey, come join us, but we have competition, and how do we stand out when we're competing against over 100,000 other organizations? Now, and to be fair, some of those organizations may be college fraternities, and Masonry is not a college fraternity. And there are other social groups, fraternal order, police, and such. So we may not compete with those, but they call the attention of people. And many fraternal organizations have experienced a decline in participation. Several explanations for this is changes in society, technology, and how individuals spend their time. Now, I also want you to keep this in mind, because we can use this information to leverage the recovery, okay? Mr. Punton in 2000 coined this phrase called bowling alone phenomenon, which is basically social and culture changes in America led to decrease in social participation. Why? People are spending more time on their phone, social media. You have the ability to watch TV from anywhere, as long as you have your phone. There's apps, there's all types of technology, and the internet has just made it so much easier to lose focus and attention and just be more tunnel vision. Social opportunities in modern times and increased interest in online interactions during the internet age. Individuals may be choosing other venues to build same skills and same sense of fraternity offered by a lot. How many of us have faces that we've never even met in our lives, or they're on the other side of the world? Social media is offering people the ability to come together with other like-minded people to share and exchange ideas, which was something that Masonry did and does still. The sustainment of and growing membership is the key to keeping our fraternity going, okay? And now this is something that I found is very scary for me. In 2015, a gentleman said that at the rate of decline, Masonry will cease to exist as a national organization by 2040. Now, I don't agree with this, but I did want to share it because I wanted to be unbiased with this research that I was conducting. Many organizations and social fraternities were once the heart of the community, of civil society, and schools of democracies. Many of the current college fraternities and numerous social nonprofits trace their lineage back to us Masons. Now, as we all know, most of our founding fathers built America on the principles of Masonry. Most of them were Masons, and they incorporated a lot of the stuff that we teach and we believe, and to our society, and that trickled down to fraternities and other groups. So how do we fix this? How do we recover from this? The research that I focused on, which was over 100 pages, by the way, it covered some of this, and it said, as far as former members, Masonry should reach out to determine if Masonry was not for them due to mismatched values or issues revolved around the time. These former members can give us an understanding of what happened. How can we fix this, and we can learn from them. Inquire if the decision was between the family, work commitment, and personal expectations about Freemasonry, or if it could have just been life events or just large drama. These former members are key players in us researching and finding out what can we do better. Inactive members, how can we get them to rejoin the ranks of active membership? What reasons do they have? Can it be family commitment, work commitment, waiting to be treated fairly, and or desires for families to be more involved? How do we get them back? Maybe information campaign on returning to Masonry, right? When the time is right in their lives, as it will aid them in returning to the values of life, family, feeling, and making difference in other people's lives. And I have to share that I may have fallen under this criteria, because for a moment, and I mean, I was focused on starting a new career, and it became very difficult to go back to attending a lodge. And also I moved to a new location, so I didn't know anyone. Inactive members, according to the research, said that Masonry needs to provide greater social value, less ritualistic stuff, be more family oriented, have meeting times which do not interfere with work or family time, and have more substance, more activities, and do more with the youth. Now, and some of this I don't agree with personally. I think the ritual is important. I think it's the center of the craft, and less ritualistic stuff is not something that I would endorse. But one thing that we are seeing here consistent is the interference of work and family time. We call that the cable tow. So that keeps coming up in the research. Current members, the organization could continue to emphasize the benefits of Masonry. These are the members that are still coming in. They come to the meetings, they're active, they're holding office, or they're just voting. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing as Masons. And they're helping others. We have to remind them that what we're doing is bigger than us. Retention of members is a key. Attracting and retaining policies should be nested to overall membership strategy regarding participation on how we're going to keep our craft going. Current members believe that improvement in mentorship diversity should occur at both lodge and local state level. I think this is a good suggestion. Mentorship is very important because you have people. The beautiful thing about the craft is you have people from different walks of life and different experiences, and bringing them together allows them to not only exchange ideas, but to create a relationship where one can help the other by just providing sound advice. Diversity, it's not just physical. It could also be looking for younger brothers, older brothers, middle-aged brothers, all types. And we don't have to wait on our Grand Lodge to do this. We can do this at a local level. It starts with the worshipful master, and it also goes down to each and every member has a responsibility to keep current members current. Almost all the members expressed their concern over Masonic time commitments in relations to family and work commitment. So here it is again. So we saw it 3 times. We saw it from the current members, we saw it from inactive members, and we saw it from members that left the craft. So this has to stick out to us as a key point if we're going to kind of fix our situation here. Oops, excuse me. So most of you are maybe familiar with the photo here. For those of you who are not, Grandmaster of Virginia this year, his theme is Freemasonry, a family affair. And I found this to be so appropriate in how we can tie this together with the research that was done here. And I've come up with some conclusions based on what I found and some of the consistencies. And my suggestions would be more lodge activities, things such as getting together to watch the Super Bowl, opening the lodge hall, not the lodge hall, but the common area for brothers to just sit down, hang out, and watch a movie. Just have more activities outside of just meeting and doing business. Another thing, maybe weekend stated and degree work. All three groups mentioned the constraints of going to a lodge meeting on a weeknight. And for the younger brothers like myself, we have children, and that can sometimes be hard. For the older brothers, driving at night could also be dangerous. So this can be a focus into perhaps creating opening it up for more people to come to our stated sessions or our activities. Family days and dinners, barbecues. I know that with COVID we really couldn't do that, but now little by little COVID is going away, or we're just learning to live with it, and we should take advantage and create days where we are inclusive of our families, have them come over for they can just have games. Another point I would like to emphasize is involvement in the community. This involvement will create more interest. While it's very nice that that we donate a lot of money, sometimes we can all do something as simple as wearing a large shirt and picking up trash along the row. And wearing that large shirt will show the community, hey, we're here and we care about our community and we're willing to help out. This will create interest amongst people that find themselves looking for something positive to do and to be contributors to the community. We should also be seeking younger members. Younger members can not only bring new ideas, but we have a lot of members who have been past masters several times. And from speaking to some, they would like to just sit on the sidelines and enjoy watching the craft. And that point also goes into my next point, which is investing in our future. Youth organizations we have to contribute to those youth organizations. Younger members that have children can have their kids be involved in organizations like Demolay, Rainbow, and other organizations. And those Demolays and Rainbows can end up being the future Masons and Eastern Stars and other organizations like that are part of our Masonic family. Those are our future, and we should be investing in them, and getting younger members will help us with that. Leveraging social media and technology to spark interest. Now, I used to, whenever I visit a lodge, I always look at their social media. And unfortunately, some lodges, they're not very active in social media. They don't have, some don't even have social media. And that is just technology. That's just technology there that we're not leveraging. We should be posting activities. We should be showing pictures of members eating, having fun, other members traveling and just showing us having fun and doing the work for the community. Using social media as a main marketing, well, not marketing, but as a main platform to show the world what we really do is a big key. And the last thing is, as the Virginia Grand Master mentioned, make Masonry a family affair. And that goes back to what I said in the third point. We have to get our families more involved. Ladies' night, ladies' dinners, have the kids movie night, movie days, and just invest into the future with the youth organizations. So that is the conclusion of my presentation, but I did want to open it up and ask everyone a question as far as what keeps you coming back to the craft. Obviously, if you're here, it's because you're an active member, and these answers can also be used to kind of figure out what we're doing right. So not just what we can do better, we're doing right. My personal opinion to that is what the thing that keeps me coming back to the craft is the amount of knowledge that I get from other gentlemen, older, younger, and the feeling of being a part of something that is not only bigger than me, but has done great things for our society and will continue to do great things for our society. So if each of you can just say a few words, I would be happy to hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Brother Oliveras. Brother Hughes, you want to answer the question? What keeps you coming back to the craft? Oh, dropped. I'm sorry. Brother Robert, if you want to answer the question, what keeps you coming back? And you need to unmute.
Okay. I just think the camaraderie of the group brings me back, gets me to say, I first got involved with it because, I wanted a connection with people that, the historical connection and what could be for the future. And the opportunities that, regardless of whether you're an officer or not, that you can make some impact. And, we were founded, to me, on some Democrat, what is democracy? We were founded on having brotherly love and the opportunity to be able to, I guess, practice that and show that to other people, and instead of to say that, hey, there's more common than there is differences that keeps us together. And, breaking down some of the walls that you can have in society, I guess, more philosophical than practical in some ways, but yet it's fun to see people on a weekly basis that, but the idea of getting out in the community also, I think, is very important.
Brother Keith, what keeps you coming back to the craft? You're muted. You're muted, Keith. You're muted. Keith, you're muted. It's like Forrest Gump. That was beautiful, man. That was beautiful.
I was going to say, it must have been when I temporarily left y'all and I forgot to unmute again.
That's all right.
Well, I tell you what attracted me to Freemasonry was growing up in Huntington, West Virginia, when I was a young person, and seeing these people, men that I so much respected, and they had that funny looking ring or a funny looking lapel pin. So I asked my grandfather what it was. And then he told me, because he was a Mason. And in fact, all my grandfathers were. And so those type of people that are high character, I believe, in Freemasonry, they're being around those type of people is what keeps me attracted to Freemasonry, is the quality of character within the members of our fraternity.
Thank you. Brother Allen is driving again. You need to unmute if you can. You're still on mute. Don't get in a wreck on our sake now. I worry about you driving there.
It's kind of like going to church. You leave a little charged up.
All right.
Stated meetings only once a month. I try to go to 2 lodges every month, but I honestly leave feeling 20% better than when I went in. I got to see my brothers. I got to give them some of my energy. They gave me some of theirs. The camaraderie. Sometimes it's even good food.
Yeah, very good. Brother Rooster, what keeps you coming back?
Obligation and the fellowship with the people I like to be with. Don't get me wrong, there's a few people that don't like me, but you know, I can tolerate a lot of people. I'm always like this. I don't have to face them, they got to face me. So, you know, you got to get along, and if it's going to thrive, you got to go. And if you don't, it'll eventually just shut down.
Brother Brian, good to have you with us, joining us late. Building a shed in a hurricane. You lunatic.
Yes, it's all good fun. Answer the question, what keeps me going? Nothing. I haven't been for about 3 months now. It's what you might call lodge issues. So yeah, the thing that's keeping me interested is these meetings, the groups I run, and that's about it. Going back to lodge, I have, and honestly, no real interest at the moment.
Interesting. Well, you are active here, so you're still practicing Masonry, just the new version of it that we're building here from scratch.
I guess, yeah.
Brother Paul?
Well, I've got an interesting story. My dad and and his father were Masons and Shriners, and I avoided it for a long time, and so I came into Masonry late in life. Actually, because of my dad's funeral, I realized I missed the fraternal atmosphere that I had when I was in college with my college fraternity. So that fraternal feeling is what keeps me in Masonry. We lost our lodge secretary due to COVID. He was one of the early casualties, which had a big impact on our lodge. I've been active with Boy Scouts for probably around 40 years now. And we've got the same problem with getting parents to volunteer. Churches don't get the Sunday attendance they used to have, even before COVID. But everybody will show up for a football game. So ritual can't be an excuse, because if you want, I had a pastor for a while that had a sermon comparing church to a football event, and they've got as much ritual in a football NFL football game as they do with in a church. So I know ritual, people don't realize it, but we've got rituals in our lives. But you know, same thing keeps me active with church and scouts is the, you know, a sense of sense of society.
Very good. Brother Duggan?
I had to leave the phone, for a while, but I take it the question is, would you repeat the question for me?
Oh, yes, certainly. What keeps you coming back to Masonry?
Okay. What keeps me coming back is that I never really stopped going, except for a brief time during COVID. Uh, I attend 1-2 meetings a week, sometimes more, depending on when the lodges meet. And it's just been a way of life for me. I especially enjoy the fellowship, and I think it's the caliber of people that you're with, for a brief period of time now. You're with like-minded people, and I, like I said, I've always done it, and I can't see myself not going to lodge.
I hear you. All right, Brother London, same question.
Unmuted. Hopefully
Good.
unmuted this time. Well, when I was growing up, most of the family and most of the admirable adults that I was associated with were Masons. I enjoy being with people I trust and like supporting the people and the craft. And it has an interesting historical background and the various truths and so forth that it teaches.
I don't know if that's a dramatic pause or you cut off again.
Actually, that seems to have been both.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I had a question, Jonathan. Thank you for the talk. I'll answer your question since you wanted to ask me one. For me, it's the fellowship. It's the feeling I get being in lodge, and why I stick to Masonry even when there are times it disappoints me is like I always want it to be better. I think I see the ideal in Freemasonry more than the reality, and I think that I've been disappointed. I posted the other day about being disappointed about Masonry, and that I'll try and summarize. I sincerely believed when I joined at 21, after being DMLA for like 5 years, that everyone in Masonry absolutely lived up to all the ideals that Masonry was teaching me. And it took me about 10 years to finally figure out that men are still men. Men are not perfect. Masons strive to be better, and we have lessons to make us better. But the reality is men can be bastards in Masonry just like they're bastards in real life. Men can be vain, men can be jealous, men can be petty. We're all capable of not living up to these ideals. And I sincerely believe, I naively believed all Masons lived up to those ideals. And it was easier, I guess, because I joined at a young age. It's kind of like growing up as a Christian, not being born again after living a life of debauchery, becoming a Christian. It's like I always grew up a Christian, so I don't know anything different. But growing up in Masonry at 21, I sincerely absorbed all of that. It's like, okay, here's how you live your life. Well, I'm just starting, so this is easy for me to pick up. So I like to think that I'm trying to follow it, but I meet men who really, they'll stab me in the back. And I've been on the receiving end of that once or twice, but we're not perfect, but we are striving to be better. So in spite of that, in spite of being let down, I believe more in the ideal of Masonry and what it can be. We don't do enough education. So I'm doing my small part to push that, to make education more available to more Masons, to make sure that things that I had to go dig out on my own, make them available much easier to newer Masons coming along behind me. So they don't have to go through all the struggles I have to, that make it easier to get access to all this information and be exposed to more education in Masonry. So I feel like it's a calling for me. I'm trying to make it better, and it's something I can work at. I had a comment about your presentation. Honestly, you could take out the COVID section altogether and take what you presented and say, here's what lodges need to do to fight our declining membership. And they would all be perfectly valid. I think all COVID did was highlight where we're falling behind in what we're supposed to be doing. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're all of it's perfectly good advice, and I agree with the bulk of what you presented. It's just, we had these problems before COVID. It's just COVID brought it to the fore. The fact we weren't meeting, the fact that we haven't bounced back as much. In some cases we have. Some lodges are right back on track, but I think all of those lessons, COVID just sort of exposed them. But I did have one comment about the youth groups, and I'm hoping that whoever said that meant the lodges aren't doing enough with their youth groups, because they say to focus in the one slide where you said people are saying you need more family activities and on and on. They mentioned, we're not doing enough with the youth. The opportunity is there for any Mason to get active in the Job's Daughters, which you left out. That's okay. The Rainbow and the DMLA, all three of our youth groups. Any Mason can get active and support them. And I would encourage anyone watching this video, if you're not active with the youth, what are you waiting on? We need you. Come get involved, because we can always use more adults. But I think maybe he meant that the lodges, those people on the poll said the lodges weren't doing enough to be active in them. And yes, Brian, I know the British are behind the rest of the world and don't have youth groups, but I can't fix everything yet. But I'm working on it. Brian said, no, we can't. Yeah, well, you can always get involved with the Boy Scouts or something else, I suppose. But anyway, but as far as the youth, though, it's definitely anyone who wants to get involved with the youth groups can here in the States. You certainly can get involved. But I did like it. Your overall presentation, I did enjoy. You're very good. You had a lot of some good details. But honestly, the COVID part almost didn't need to be there for all the other things you brought up. Those were existing issues before COVID. But that was good of you to put that perspective on it, because I look at it, it's like, yeah, this is something. I mean, guys realize that I'm going through these papers now, and we're in the mid 2000s. I did a whole bunch of papers from the 80s and 90s, and I've churned through all of our papers. And John London, you still owe me papers. Just reminding you. Putting out for you all of these papers that were written and presented 20, even almost 30 years ago, had issues in them that someone could have written them today and presented them. So these issues have not gone away. We are still not doing enough to make Masonry more accessible, to make it appeal to more of the young men out there who could be joining us. So it's kind of funny how these perpetual problems we like to think that we're unique in what we're dealing with today, but these issues have been around for a long time. And we still manage to go through Masonry and live our lives. And those of us who are active in Masonry and lodges that are doing well, excuse me, are still able to do them. It's not a unique problem to today, but we still need to keep hammering on. We need to be doing more of these things. Any other questions or comments about the presentation?
Yeah. I got a comment. Paul. Probably could use some daylight lodges. Talked to, there's a couple amateur radio operators that are Masons that I've talked to, and our get together on the radio and Sunday nights. For one or two of them, we're the only contact, because they can't make it to their lodges because they don't get out at night. So probably some daylight lodges would probably help some of those. So we're reaching out through the oldest social network, the amateur radio community, otherwise known as HAMS. As far as youth groups, I've run across several men in scouting that are Masons. I paid a visit to a Cub Scout pack. I'm a district commissioner. I paid a visit to a Cub Scout pack, and one of the dads spotted my ring. So we had a nice little brotherly talk. So
Paul, let me ask you. I'm sorry. Where do you live? What Grand Lodge are you under?
Louisiana. I'm in the New Orleans area.
I should remember. Okay, so New Orleans. So There are
And
no.
we have 2 stated meetings a month.
Okay, there are no daylight lodges in New Orleans.
No, the only thing, not that I'm aware of,
Okay.
we do have a motorcycle lodge
Oh, okay.
that meets around the state.
It's interesting if you brought up the thing about from Jonathan's presentation about being difficult to meet. I mean, honestly, just not to be too critical, but if you join a lodge that only meets on Fridays and you find yourself unable to attend on Fridays, there are other lodges. Now, for most of us, unless you live like where Rooster does, I guess, there are lodges around you that meet like I'm in Hampton Roads. Okay, as Jonathan mentioned, most of you are from Virginia, so you know about Hampton Roads. If I wanted to, I could go to lodge every night of the week except Sunday. So it is an option if you're in any kind of a metropolitan area, and we're like one big city that's broken up into 7 little cities that only has like 3 downtowns. Okay, like all of Virginia Beach is basically the suburbs. So we're not really a metropolitan area, but I guess you could argue we are a metropolitan area of strip malls. But you could find a lodge to attend any night of the week if you wanted to. So if the lodge you're in meets on a night you can't attend, you certainly could find one if you wanted to. The trouble with the Daylight Lodge, now Victory Daylight is in our area. I know there's at least, I've had to count them up. There's at least probably a dozen across Virginia. I don't know when all of them meet. I have to go look it up. Victory Daylight meets on Saturdays. Used to meet Saturday mornings. Now they meet, I think, early afternoons. But they're a Saturday lodge. Most of them, they work normal jobs, but they wanted a daylight lodge in this area, and they founded one. Most people who work can't go to a lodge on like a 10 o'clock on a Wednesday. I guess you'd have to be a retiree or work second shift. So in the case of the fellas you're talking to, assuming they're in your area, you could easily get a group together. Lynn Haven Lodge is in my neck of the woods here in Virginia Beach. They have a Pine Tree School, and they meet, I think, 3 days a week. And you come in the mornings, and they teach ritual school, and they hang out, drink coffee, and occasionally teach the ritual. Mainly, it's a chance to hang out. But there's an opportunity for people to come and attend during the day. And I would suggest if there's enough people in an area that can't make it to any night of the week because of other commitments, but they can go during the day somehow, you can probably get a group to start meeting regularly and have like a Masonic club. You can start with an informal one and then move towards making it more organized. And at some point, if you get enough attendance, start a, actually start a charter, get a charter and start a daylight lodge. So it is possible, but there has to be enough interest. You have to have enough people willing to commit to it that it could actually meet and function as a lodge. And I think I don't know, Bernie, you might know how many lodges, how many members you have to charter a lodge? Is it 20, 25?
I'm not even sure. I don't remember now.
Even the past grandmaster don't know. Okay.
No.
I guess it'd be, I see charters and normally there's like 20. Well, if you haven't chartered one, I don't expect you to know, really. You'd have to look it up. Let's say you need 20 or 25 people willing to commit to sign up for it. So it is a commitment to actually charter an actual lodge if you wanted a daylight lodge. But there's been interest, Paul, if you want to look at, we did I did the Lodge of the Day in 2020, where every day I covered a different lodge in Virginia and spent 300 days in a row. Every day was on Facebook. I put Norfolk #1, Atlantic #2, so on. And I dug into their history of each one and showed where they came from. And I've gone back and kind of looked at it. You can see that over the past 50 years, there's only been a handful of lodges chartered, but several have been. And there's enough of a demand, a bunch of Masons to get together and make it happen. So it's not impossible to have a daylight lodge in an area. You just have enough interest to make it happen. 1 or 2 guys saying, I can't make it on a weeknight. I'm sorry for you, but it's not going to change unless you get enough people who have the same desire of, I really want to attend lodge. I can't go at night. I need to attend a daylight lodge, to make one happen. there's a remedy, I guess is what I'm saying, you know?
Yeah.
So, and honestly, there's nothing, I personally, Jonathan, going back to your talk, honestly, the biggest complaint I get, especially like from my wife, is if there's something on a Saturday or a Sunday, she's griping about it. I don't think having weekend activities is going to help your family situation. Just my perspective, but honestly, I go on Friday nights and that hasn't been a conflict. When I was really active, I went Wednesdays and Fridays, and those nights weren't a conflict in and of themselves. It's just the frequency. But if a lodge did more on a weekend, honestly, I think you get more pushback from the families because normally the weekends are family time. It's unusual that your poll, I know that's not your opinion, it was the poll, but I think that's unusual. Someone says, Masons don't do enough for families. We need to meet more on the weekends. To me, that's kind of counter that's contrary, but that's just my take on it. You know, and if you want to get involved in youth groups, if you want to spend every weekend of your life doing something, be a Job's Daughter advisor. I guarantee you every single weekend of your life, you will be somewhere in the state driving those girls somewhere because there's always a grand visitation to go to. So maybe that could be the solution for someone who wants more family and more youth stuff and more weekend time. Job's Daughters. There you go. I got your fix for you.
Well, let me put in a plug for our Rainbow Girls. My daughter does keep us busy with Rainbow, but I honestly, I think it's great. And I push her to kind of invite her friends because those youth organizations, they contribute a lot to us and the lodges. It gives us a great feeling when we're contributing, when the girls say, hey, we need $100 or donation or whatever, and I see the guys right away, they make the motion because we get that goodwill feeling of, hey, we're a part of the process to making these young ladies or gentlemen grow up to be productive members of society. And that I find is the that's the legacy that Masonry leaves, is cultivating these kids to of society, to be good members of society as well. And I think, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going to say you're a member of Yorktown, so look how many people with the last name of Murray are in your lodge, and every one of them was in D-Belay with me.
So yeah.
That Yorktown
so
definitely supports the youth.
Those guys. Yes, those guys are great guys too, and I appreciate them. And as far as the presentation, some of the stuff that I found, I wasn't 100% in agreement with it. However, I did want to kind of present an unbiased opinion, and it's pretty hard when I have my own personal beliefs, and I know that Saturdays are maybe hard for some and maybe not, and I also know that as Masons we do a lot for the youth. Can we do more? Perhaps, but I believe we contribute a lot to the youth and society in general.
Agreed. I'll share this. The a former Grandmaster of Utah moved here, and he's active in Alexandria Valley of the Scottish Rite. And we were at a conference in Alexandria, and he gave a talk on Masonic education. And he said he started a program where every one of his stateds for the Scottish Rite, he gives a talk on one of the degrees in the Scottish Rite. And he has a whole thing. Basically, he's written a presentation for every degree. So over a course of years, he's covering all of the degrees. And he says, well, one thing that's interesting is he says he'll never put it on social media. He won't give me copies of it. He says, we won't share it on social media. We won't share the written part. You must attend Scottish Rite if you want to hear this, which I found an interesting take on it. He wants to get people in the meeting room. But he mentioned a study that he participated in, I think. They asked like 1,000 or more Masons, about newer Masons, what was it they expected from Masonry? And the three biggest answers were education, philosophy, and brotherhood. And that hit me as like, yeah, we're not doing enough. I think they might have mentioned education in the poll that you referred to. Seemed like it was a different kind of result, but honestly, I didn't really see much of an emphasis on education. But I think that's something most Masons, newer Masons, seem to want. And I'm definitely getting that vibe from the people I've talked to online. People come to these things, and that's what we're trying to reach here is more education. Honestly, I think if you have better education, people won't mind the ritual because they'll see the connections between the education papers and the ritual work. They'll start to see what the purpose of it is. Now, I grant you, if your lodge does ritual poorly and they're not explaining any of it to you, it's easy for a newer person to say, yeah, well, why do we bother with all? Why do we bother? Why don't we just open the meeting and just get on with it? You know what I mean? So again, I think that falls to education. If we're not teaching people what the ritual means, I just found your poll kind of, it doesn't align with all, I think you're in agreement with me a little bit. It doesn't align with all the things that we understand or we might agree with. It's kind of different how some of it overlaps. So like, yeah, okay, I get you on that. I mean, people who want Masonry to not do any family stuff at all. They think we shouldn't be doing family stuff. It's about, we go to Masonry to be with brother Masons. This is our, this is our secret play. This is our guy time. This is our man cave. This is just for us. It's not about the families. I think you can find a balance. I think if a lodge has a dinner at least a couple times a year where we bring the wives and the family, that's great. You don't have to have a dinner with wives at every meeting. If you'd rather your lodge focus on, it's about the members. It's about us. We don't want outside. We don't want non-Masonic speakers. We want it to be the brothers meeting together and communing together. And I get that. I guess you have to strike a balance. Don't have it. If you never invite the wives ever, they wonder what it is you're doing. So if they attend a few times a year and they get to meet other people, they meet the other wives, then I think the wives have more of a warm fuzzy about Masonry. It's like, okay, these are good men and these are their wives, and you're not doing anything weird here. Go do your thing. So you keep the wives happy, but the main focus is on Masonry and the education and learning more about the philosophy and bonding as brothers. Any other comments, brethren? Any other questions for Brother Oliveras? Everyone ample opportunity. Okay. Excuse me. My voice is really rough. I got that COVID going on, so just kidding. So I wanted to thank Brother Oliveras again. I do want to announce our upcoming meeting on March 29th at 10 a.m. This is going to be different. I'm really looking forward to this. Let's see. It is, okay, why aren't mine in here? Oh, I'm on my homepage. Hang on one second. Let me go back to in your research. And, I don't have it. Okay, maybe I don't have it plugged in here then. Okay. We will be having, I guess I'll have to make an event and announce it. What we're doing is the Grand Lodge of Virginia has asked me to write a paper for an article for the Masonic Herald about the research lodges. Okay. And what I'm doing is I'm going to have a panel discussion. I'm going to have one or two members of each, hopefully two, of every research lodge in Virginia. And there are 5 of them now. And I'm going to have a panel discussion with all of these learned brothers who have been active in our research lodges for years. Brother Keith is one of our panelists for Virginia research. And we're going to ask some questions about the specifics of their research lodge. What does their research lodge do? How did it get started? Do they have a specific lean and what kind of research they conduct, and kind of explain more how they operate? So that's going to be our Zoom meeting. So I'll have a good topic and get some participation for that. And it's going to highlight research lodges more within the Grand Lodge. The Grand Lodge is interested in what we're doing, which is good. We want to get more grand officers and past grand masters to be active. Bernie is our token past grand master. We don't have a lot of other ones. So it's gonna bring up the prominence of research lodges in Virginia, and when it's in the Herald, it's going to reach a lot of Masons out there who may not be familiar with the research lodges. So we're going to be reaching a lot of people with this, and it should be a lot of fun. So I'd like to invite everyone to attend 2 weeks from now on the 29th, and that should be a lot of fun. I have other speakers lined up, but I don't have them firmed up yet. So we will continue our program every 2 weeks, having it unstated. Brother Clark, is that what I'm saying? Or are you just waving? Okay.
You say the 29th?
Yes. Or, no, I'm sorry, the 26th. I keep doing that. The 26th. Yeah, next week's the 19th. I'm sorry. March 26th.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's 2 weeks from today. Yeah, I said February 29th on something too, and it was the 26th. It's because the 19th, I was thinking 9. It threw me off. Yeah, 2 weeks from today, February 26th. Saturday at 10, as always. So we do have some interesting speakers coming up. Brother Martinez is going to come give a talk online. I was fortunate enough to get him as our guest speaker at our actual meeting in February, and then me and Rooster were not able to attend. But he agreed to come and talk. I didn't want to have his talk right after him speaking in person, but he'll probably be in like April or May with our Brother Martinez. I have some other interesting speakers we're lining up. So more stuff to come. Keep an eye on the Facebook page and the emails. I'll be letting you all know about those. Any brother, anything to announce? Anything you want to share before we break? No, okay. I really appreciate all of you being here. This is great. We have a core group that's showing up regularly. We've had 10, I think we had 11 people here. I think people had dropped in, dropped out, but had a good crowd today. So look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks, and I'll see you all online. Y'all have a good day.
You too.